Potential spoilers for the future of the MCU, particularly Multiverse of Madness if certain rumours turn out to be true. Of course, I have as much idea as you as to whether or not certain things are actually true, so proceed with caution. But honestly, I'd be shocked if you didn't know what I was going to say here. It's been shotgunned all over the internet. Can nothing be kept under wraps anymore? Oh, and spoilers for No Way Home, the rest of the MCU, blah blah blah. Last year, WandaVision kicked off the MCU's mind-blowing cameo reveal era, otherwise known as Phase 4, with the introduction of the Fox X-Men's Quicksilver. The Evan Peters original recipe cinematic speedster meeting his sister from another universe in Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch was a tantalising glimpse into what potential could be mined from having the already established cinematic X-Men fold into the MCU. When Disney acquired Fox, I thought, Jesus, that's bleak, and oh, they'll probably reboot the X-Men. But all of that was thrown into chaos when Evan Peters jumped into WandaVision. How could this not signal the coming of the Fox-Men? Well, by the finale, we all got a taste of Boner. Ralph Boner.
Ralph Boner?
I don't think it was ridiculous to expect Peters to genuinely be his version of Quicksilver when the very next movie Wanda was appearing in was called The Multiverse of Madness. But hey ho, it genuinely seems like Evan Peters was just in the series for an extended joke. That sucks, because Evan Peters' Quicksilver was awesome and I don't know anybody who wouldn't enjoy seeing more of him. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool might be a bit of a meta side piece to the Fox universe in the first place, but there is no denying his world is definitively tied to the huge jacked man mutant film canon. Marvel have confirmed another film starring Reynolds will happen in the MCU, so that's 2 characters. And now, this is your last chance, there are multiple rumours that Patrick Stewart is coming back as Professor Xavier. If we're going to bring back Patrick Stewart's Xavier in any form, then the MCU is actively working against its own X-Men reboot later down the line, because Stewart is going to fucking kill the role again, obviously, and then what? I'm supposed to just accept a new Xavier? When I know that this version is 100% out there in the multiverse? Nah, that's just going to be a tough pill to swallow. If this turns out to be true, that will be 3 key Fox characters carving out a spot in the MCU, and I'm sorry, but at that point, the thought of a completely recast and rebooted X-Men seems rather pointless to me. If you're going to have your No Way Home moments not once, not twice, but 3 times, and lovingly recreate the characters from that other universe, then what is the point in wiping it all away to start over? If you're acknowledging the most memorable and beloved parts of those worlds, then you should double down and incorporate everything that people really did think worked about those films. I don't believe the X-Men really need a hard reboot in the MCU, and in this video I hope to convince you of that. I'm sure there's some viewers who hated the original Fox-Men films in their entirety, and those viewers are cowards. First off, let's talk about the notion of these portal cameos, i.e. returning legacy characters from other Marvel universes stepping into the MCU. If you're going to bring characters back, you need to have a good reason beyond the surprise of doing so. Having Garfield's Peter catch MJ No Way Home is a great way of furthering a cameo into a key supporting part that honours their personal journey. Everyone was jazzed for Evan Peters to come back, but the lasting impact of that was hollow because we all got sucker punched by Ralph's throbbing boner.
Boner?
If Quicksilver had really been Quicksilver and he'd stuck around in Wanda's life, I can't imagine we would have seen much protest. We would have gotten more awesome speedster scenes, and it would be a chance to fully develop that famous twin relationship, definitely based on the 616 version and not the Ultimate version. It's okay to bring in legacy characters if there's a compelling narrative reason, and fortunately Wanda provides that plenty. She's the biological daughter of Magneto, the sister of Pietro, as well as one of the most powerful mutants ever. This is a hero that could go toe-to-toe with Xavier or Magneto. She could easily be a witch and a mutant, not to mention an Avenger and an X-Man. Scarlet Witch is the perfect bridge between these 2 worlds, and it would be easy to dive into the blood ties as yet unexplored. Michael Fassbender's Magneto and Ian McKellen's Magneto are both awesome and some of the best comic book villainy ever put to screen. Either one of them would crush it as the Dark Father to Wanda Maximoff. The original X-Men series barely touched upon his fatherly connection to Pietro as it is, so we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone in that regard. The twins versus Daddy Mags, I'm game for it. Liz Olsen's Witch has grown from strength to strength over the years to become one of the MCU's best characters. Infinitely powerful but also emotionally fraught and beset by tragedy after tragedy, it would be awesome to see her find a home amongst Marvel's persecuted heroes. She's been a steady supporting character, then got her own Disney Plus series, and will surely shine in this year's Multiverse of Madness. From there, not giving her the lead in her own movie would be downright criminal, and I don't think there's a better fit than Scarlet Witch and the X-Men. It doesn't need to be called that, but you get the point. Before I go back to the band of merry mutants, I want to quickly talk about today's sponsor, Scentbird. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service that gives you the opportunity to shop from over 600 different brands, including top designers like Prada, Clinique, Gucci, and DKNY, to indie labels like Vince Camuto, The Harmonist, and Confessions of a Rebel. I have been informed that unfortunately they do not have Sex Panther.
It's called Sex Panther. It's illegal in 9 countries.
Smelling good is often really expensive. Scentbird allows you to rotate for a whole host of different brands every month for just $15. With each fragrance, you'll get a 30-day supply so you can try out fragrances before committing to a full bottle. You can upgrade to receive 2 or 3 products a month. Shipping is currently available in the US and Canada. Use my code FFV55 to get 50% off your first month at Scentbird. The link is in the description below. In terms of continuity and casting, just cherry pick what you want. Maybe Apocalypse didn't happen because everyone thought it was shit. We could include all the good films' overarching lore and then just equate anything that doesn't get referenced again as a variant timeline. It doesn't even need to be addressed, does it? Who cares where X-Men The Last Stand fits in anymore? It's old news. The stuff that really worked well, and the series managed to survive for 17 years, still producing a gem every couple of years. They've had a bunch of great characters and moments and arcs, and at their best they've been just as good, if not better than the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all its offerings. So I can't help but be a little saddened by the notion that everyone is clamouring for an X-Men reboot, because it seems like it will end in misery. No Way Home and the subsequent frenzy from fans desiring a Spider-Man 4 and an Amazing Spider-Man 3 says to me that deep down the appearances of all these older heroes would pan out better than a reboot. Listen, I love Mahershala Ali, he will be a credit to the MCU and he's a fantastic actor, but I can't help but feel a little saddened also by the fact that his presence means original recipe Blade won't get his No Way Home moment. Blade was just as important as the first Spider-Man in securing the golden era of the comic book movie. In spite of a lackluster third film, people still love and remember the worlds that both heroes inhabited because of how good the first 2 installments were. Fans were calling for more Blade since the MCU began, and yeah, maybe we would have all expected a reboot a few years ago, but now the landscape has completely changed. If we can get J.K. Simmons, Evan Peters, Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, Andrew Garfield, Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe, Thomas Hayden Church, Rhys Ifans, Alfred Molina and Tobey freaking Maguire, and maybe even Ryan Reynolds and Patrick Stewart, then where is Snipes, honestly? With the notable exceptions of Vinnie Jones and Sophie Turner, the X-Men movie's problem was never really the casting. For example, Ty Sheridan never got to star in a good movie as Cyclops, but does he have the potential to be a great Cyclops? Almost definitely. Last year I got to see him in The Card Counter and The Tender Bar, and he was one of the best things in both of those movies. He's got a naturally likeable charm, and I think with the right creative foundations like a banging script, well, you'd have yourself a Cyclops stew going. I'm really glad that Hugh Jackman got to do Logan before we reached the state of comic book movies now, because he almost certainly would have returned. Logan is really special, and it's a bit of a miracle it got made in the current blockbuster landscape, so anything that threatens that and the perfect bookends to his Wolverine is a big no-no for me. Jackman expressed his enthusiasm for the MCU in the past, and no doubt seeing him bat off Cap and Iron Man and all the rest would have been great to see. But it's too late now. We got a really neat, confident, creative end for Logan in a Logan, and so anything past that would be odd. If the MCU's X-Men is in desperate need of an adamantium mutant, then capitalise on the only aspect of Logan that could warrant any expansion. X-23, aka Laura, aka the Wolverine. Daphne Keane will have aged further into the role since her first appearance, but if she doesn't want to return, I have no problem with casting an adult version of the character hailing from that continuity. You know how Old Man Logan joined the main Marvel universe for a time? Just do it like that, and you know who else could come back to face her? Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth. I don't care what anyone says, he was an awesome Sabretooth. See, X-Men Origins Wolverine might blow steaming mutant chunks, but there's no reason why another appearance from Liev Schreiber would have to suck. Take the good parts, leave the rest. I want to see the new Wolverine cut Sabretooth's head off. On top of all that, the franchise was often criticised for putting Wolverine too front and centre, so it's not like A, we haven't already had so much of him, and B, his absence will allow a host of other characters to shine. Laura's Wolverine and Sabretooth could more than cover the Weapon X contingent. All that aside, I know how much people love Wolverine, so if you really need to reboot him, then do it. But personally, I think there's other characters I'd rather see start fresh, like Gambit. The idea of a multiverse is a fantastic little screenwriting get-out-of-jail-free card, because you can easily hand-wave away how Daphne Keen's character from the Logan continuity could stand alongside Halle Berry's Storm and Ty Sheridan's Cyclops. Who even cares if we have to cherry-pick multiple contradictory elements from the X-Men series? Once they migrate to the MCU, it's all unified again and it's basically a blank slate in a way. You could absolutely use it to tear up the rulebook. Michael Fassbender's Magneto could just as easily show up from the 60s as Ian McKellen's contemporary Skin. X-23 comes from a nigh post-apocalyptic world, but that won't matter. Granted, this could all happen with an all-new, hard-rebooted X-Men team with an all-new cast and continuity. But Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool will continue, and we'll always remember when Patty Stew and Mr. Peters came to town. As far as I'm concerned, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Spare us the mess of rehashing the X-Men and instead skip all the origins and introductions, wow audiences the way you did with No Way Home and bring the shiniest part of the Foxverse over to tell new stories. I'm sure many will say they would absolutely prefer to see everything start over, but come back to me when Patrick Stewart kicks all kinds of arse in Multiverse of Madness. Are you seriously telling me you don't want Jordan Peele's X-Men with Patrick Stewart back? Abdul Mateen 2 would make a wicked Gambit. Anna Lily Amirpour's X-Men, she already directed episodes of the woefully underrated Legion. Hell, I'd love to see Matthew Vaughn come back and finally get to finish the X-Men vision he carved out before Bryan Singer charged back in. I mean, in all likelihood, they'll probably hire a TV director with one feature under their belt. But you get the point. Because of Singer being such a see you next Tuesday, people have largely forgotten how good the original two X-Men movies were and how influential they were for the genre. And thankfully, there's other good X-Men movies less tarnished by Singer's looming shadow. You have the work of Matthew Vaughn, James Mangold, Tim Miller. Basically, between the host of other creatives that have worked on the series on and off screen, I think it's suffice to say that there's enough goodwill to jettison the aftertaste of Singer and focus on what brought a lot of joy to so many audiences. Shawn Ashmore recently said he'd be up for the MCU. After X-Men 3, there was at one point talk of a trio-led X-Men movie starring Shawn Ashmore's Iceman, Anna Paquin's Rogue, and Elliot Page's Kitty Pryde. All three of them have range and have brought a lot to their respective roles. I would absolutely be happy to see all three of them return, maybe this time as the older gen of X-Men. That's the beauty of the team. There's so damn many of them, and good ones to boot. And then on top of that, there's characters who haven't been brought to the screen properly yet. Gambit's never showed up in the team films, so I would count that as a blank slate. X-Men Days of Future Past already established that main timeline wiped X-Men Origins Wolverine for all intents and purposes. I wouldn't care, I really wouldn't care if you put Michael Fassbender next to Halle Berry. It's all wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey anyway. The original continuity was hanging together by a thread. I'm perfectly happy for them to mash casts together and forge ahead with whoever wants to come back. Imagine if we got Alan Cumming back, or Kelsey Grammer. I like some of the potential cameos the MCU could bank on from the wider multiverse of Marvel movies. Bringing back the X-Men would be a chance to give those original characters something more to chew on. There's plenty of god-tier casting in the Foxverse that deserves some screen time, exactly like how Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man shined in No Way Home. But look, I know how you internet people get. I don't imagine many people will be okay with having different eras of the original series meshing together. It's too disco for you, I get it. Well, why not just have some dual storylines? I must admit, when Days of Future Past came out in 2014 and it featured the old and new cast, I thought that was going to be the new status quo, I really did. After all, I thought they wouldn't do all that and get Hugh Jackman back into the mainline series only to bench him, right? Except X-Men Apocalypse came and went, and for some reason it solely focuses on the younger prequel iterations. We brought back Jean Grey and Cyclops in the main timeline, only to never refer to them ever again. At a time when the X-Men series needed to represent a shake-up to the standard structure of an MCU adventure, Apocalypse could have and should have featured both casts in a non-linear storyline. We could have flip-flopped between the two timelines with a unifying threat, and Sabanur certainly fits that bill. What if Apocalypse had resurged in the Patrick Stewart timeline, only for the Professor to reveal that this is not the first time the X-Men and the Brotherhood have faced him? In comes the James McAvoy cast with their own plot threads. I'm spitballing here, but the salient point is that it was stupid to get the old cast back and then banish them again when everyone loved seeing the timelines interact. Given the fact that most MCU movies follow a fairly standard pattern laid out across 2 hours and 15 minutes, wouldn't it be cool to do a more challenging balancing act and do something with both casts? And you don't have to cram everyone in, focus on just a handful of X-Men, but work the decades-long gap between the period and contemporary characters. Loosely refer to the mythology of First Class and Days of Future Past for the prequel cast, refer to the original 2 movies for the modern team. Much like the Doctor being half human, it will rarely come up in conversation. New stories can propel the situations we find these characters in, sprinkle in an MCU mainstay or two to tie it all together, and well, it looks like we might have an X-Stew going. The X-Men franchise has some stinkers, but it would be a gross overreaction to deem it a sullied enterprise. Feige and the team at Marvel must be aware of the potential that lies in Patrick Stewart, Reynolds Deadpool, and Evan Peters Quicksilver to have them pop up at all. Why not stop edging us and just go the distance? If the MCU does fully reboot the X-Men, then that won't be the worst thing in the world, and it certainly doesn't mean it's going to be bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it will be a tiny bit exhausting and just might turn out worse. And I think we'll look back on those times Evan Peters and Patrick Stewart popped up only to be replaced by fresh-faced counterparts, and we'll wonder what the point of them turning up in the first place was. Oh, and Deadpool will be making thoughtful jokes about how these aren't the X-Men he's used to. Can't wait for that. The MCU has historically worked best when it brings in new elements like the Guardians or Shang-Chi, not so much when it is doing another version of something we've already had on the big screen before, like Spider-Man. It should endeavour to keep making more Shang-Chis, and worry less about redoing a superhero team we've already had over 2 decades of movies from. Just bring them in. Bring them bloody home.
Boner?
A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos. If you'd like to find me on Instagram, you can find me at full_fat_videos. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can find me at, you guessed it, at fullfatvideos. Until next time, don't reboot the goddamn X-Men, please.